first thing I want to say is I am not an AI expert. I'm not even particularly IT or technical. My heart's very much, yes, in e-commerce. We've been doing e-commerce for about 20 years. But really, it's very much from the customer, the consumer side. It's about having great shopping experiences as far as I'm concerned. So if AI can help us deliver customers with a great shopping experience, I'm all for it. If, however, it gets in the way and causes problems for the customers, I'm not such a fan. The list of topics I'm going to cover today, I am going to try and kind of cover them off, but I'm not going to try and cover them off in loads and loads of detail. But I want to give you a few thoughts on each of the points that we've got kind of listed out here. The first thing I'm going to start with is what is AI? I mean, what is it really? Because you will have heard already just in this show alone so many people talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, algorithms. What do we actually mean by it? Do we even have a common understanding of what we use when we use the term artificial intelligence? And even more importantly, what do consumers think artificial intelligence actually means? How do they feel towards it? Is it something that we use internally within the industry? What if that is a mismatch with how people use the term outside of our own kind of verticals and our offices? So, I mean, the strict dictionary definition is it's a branch of computer science dealing with the simulation of intelligent behavior in computers. Simulation of intelligent behavior to whom? Won't be my question. Or the capability of a machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. So I just think it's really important that we try and have a vocabulary around this that actually makes sense to us and also makes sense to our customers if we're going to put AI in front of them. We have talked quite a lot today, and I'm sure you, in your sessions you will have heard, from my point of view, I like to think about invisible AI and visible AI. So there's kind of stuff that happens behind the scenes, which is about crunching the data and getting the insights, all the kind of actionable data, getting it into a place, getting the computers to work on something that we can use. And then there's the visible AI, which is the manifestation of that in front of our customers. So thinking about how that comes across. And one of the things I'm really conscious of when you're thinking about computers and you're thinking about humans is, on the one hand, you've got a very logical machine that's built for logic. And on the other hand, you've got humans that are irrational, they're impulsive, they're emotional, they're inconsistent. And when you try and mash up those two things together, you might have logical data on one side, but then you've got a complete mismatch with a human on the other side. And so how do we find a route to kind of make that intelligence actually intelligent for human beings? So, quick thing, what have we actually achieved within the industry to date? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say not very much, actually, in terms of real artificial intelligence. So it is true that the affordability and the availability of processing power has gone through the roof in the last few years. That is true. We can crunch more data than we have ever been able to do before. But most of what we've seen to date, in my view anyway, has been around algorithms. We're talking about code that's been created to crunch through data. It's not really been about machine learning. It's not really been about computing, teaching itself. It's still got humans in the background working with the data. I think we are on the cusp of moving into that, but I don't think to date that's what we've seen. Let me give you an example. So within grocery, recommendations engines, yeah? Algorithms. People who bought this, bought that. Algorithms are built often on just logic. So here's a bit of logic. People who buy cornflakes buy toilet roll. That's true, but if you get that in a recommendation, you're going to go, what? Well, yes, logically that's true, but why would you present it like that? It makes no sense. So I think getting the learning as to understand some of the human connections that are being made in the data, not just the logical connections that a machine sees, is going to be increasingly important. And I think for a lot of businesses, we've been inundated with data, big data, lots of data, huge data, but our ability to be able to mine that data and make sense of it hasn't kept up. Why? Because it's bloody difficult. And it's really hard for humans to do. And this is where we need computers to do some heavy lifting for us. can I ask, who in the room, any retailers in the room who've got data scientists in their business? Okay, web analysts, call them what you like. Yeah, any analytics? Hopefully most retailers got some analytics people. But data science, this is the sort of extension of web analytics. I think we are going to need more data scientists. And by all accounts, they're jolly expensive. So I'm not convinced we've achieved a huge amount to date yet, but I think we are on the cusp of getting some really amazing machine learning to create those meaningful outputs that actually we've been wanting from large data sets for a long time. Okay, how to build an AI strategy. I have no idea how to build an AI strategy. And I don't really care, because what I really care about is building a strategy. You shouldn't have an AI strategy that sits alone. That way, danger lies, in my view. Let's not build AI strategies. Let's do good business, which is what? We look for key opportunities. Is there an opportunity to deliver more sales? Is there an opportunity to engage customers in a fresh way? Is there a way to improve the delivery of our services? If there is, those are good strategic questions, and we can ask, how can AI help us to do that? But let's not talk about creating standalone AI strategies. Let's talk about business strategies. And to Louise's point that she just made in the panel that we just had, it is very much about listening to our customers. And not listening just to what they need, but also what they want. In the logistics track yesterday, there was a bit of debate going on about whether really customers need to have same-day delivery. Of course we don't need same-day delivery. That's not the point. If our customers want same-day delivery, then as retailers we need to think about how do we go about giving customers what they want. If we only gave people what they need, we would never see any innovation. We really only need to, eat and stay warm and maybe do something useful with our lives. But so I think an AI strategy needs a data strategy, that is for sure. So I don't know how many of you have a data strategy in place. How do you collect it? How do you maintain it? How do you distribute it? How do you protect it? How do you care for it? And the other thing that I'm really convinced of is that we will see that any sort of a strategy involving AI is going to need changes to your HR strategy as well, whether that's in terms of recruitment or whether that's in terms of actually some jobs becoming less important and less usefully done by a human than they have in the past. Okay. Limitations of AI in retail. Gosh, there are a lot. AI is good at working with data. That is true. That is true. That's where we're going to see the most benefits, is crunching through the data. But there are some things that AI is less good at. So, large data sets, yes. Making you a cup of coffee, not so good. I don't know how many of you, see if we can play this video, have seen the Boston Robotics dog? I love this. I love it. I'm terrified at the same time. But, we may soon find that, the robotics that couldn't make a cup of coffee will soon be able to come along and walk upstairs and open doors, and it's all faintly terrifying, if you ask me. But if you think about the amount of data that must have gone into that in order to be able to create the mechanical ability to open a door. There they go. Absolutely terrifying. There you go. So I think there are absolutely some limitations in AI, and I'm going to talk to you in a minute about the chatbot that we built recently, a wine chatbot that we wanted to help our customers navigate our world of wine. But one of the most interesting things during that project is the realization about how difficult and how complicated it is working with something that comes so easily to us, which is language. And language for us is so innate, we do it without any thought at all, but for a machine to work with language is unbelievably difficult. And yet, this at the moment, you may have seen, but people are saying this is going to be an area where AI is going to make huge inroads. Well, we'll see. I can tell you, it's flipping hard. Trying to have a conversation with somebody, when you think about the different ways that you can ask a single question, when you think about sarcasm as a concept for a machine to understand. The context that's required to interpret that in the flow of a conversation. Emotion, intonation, stressing certain words or syllables, unbelievably difficult for a machine and unbelievably easy for a human to take on board. So I think what we'll see in a lot of AI, and I suspect when you have vendors who come to you and talk to you about their lovely, shiny new machine learning this or chatbot that, is you'll find the amount of paddling underwater that happens behind the scenes that's just about people doing the hard work, humans. You'll probably be shocked, but more on that in a minute. And then the final thing I would just say, by way of warning really, is let's not blunder into consumer-facing AI. Let's sense check it. If we think that there is a real opportunity here for us as businesses to help our consumers, let's do a little bit of hand-holding as we go. And we've certainly found for our chatbot that's been a really important area where we've had to go and review how the technology is performing. So some key customer challenges that I would flag. There's a real danger again that you can overcomplicate things. This is already quite a complicated area. So if you're thinking about doing a project involving AI or machine learning, try and start with something where you have a very tangible goal. Yeah? Keep it nice and simple, both for you and your consumers. It's a good place to start. Don't overcomplicate the customer journey. Second thing, don't overpromise on the technology. And this is what I found in nearly all of the vendors that we talked to when we were looking at doing our chatbot, is far too many of them were like, oh yeah, we can take any unstructured data of any sort and interpret it and put it into a great, meaningful conversation in your bot. No problem. Rubbish. Absolutely not true. Let's not overpromise to our customers. That will really put them off if we don't set out quite clearly about what the context is and set those expectations. We will end up annoying our customers and probably putting them off those sort of interactions. On the other hand, don't underestimate people's appetite for things like chatbots. So, you know, if we can deliver faster services, more accurate services, more relevant information for customers, that's a good thing, and consumers will like that. So let's not imagine that the demand isn't there, because it absolutely is. People want great service, and if we can do that through consumer-facing AI, then great. And then the only other final thing, which I'll show a link at the end that you can photograph, but there's a big discussion going on in the space generally about machine bias. So this is where if you take a computer that has no views, particularly about race, age, gender, and you give it a load of data, it's quite possible that that data is going to be interpreted in a logical way, but potentially a negative and potentially in an offensive way. So we just need a little bit careful, because all data is generated by people who are biased, because we're all biased in some way, whether we like it or not. So thinking about that data set and how we put in safeguards and a bit of protection to make sure that the data that we build our AI on is, for example, in retail might be discriminatory pricing. So you profile somebody and you say, well, I'm going to give them this price and give somebody else that price. Well, why? What's the basis for that? What are the rules? Do we understand the reasoning behind some of those decision making? So just avoiding bias within the data, or at least understanding it. How to experiment. So I'm going to give you just, I guess, a few tips from our own experience of doing the wine chatbot, which I'm going to come on to next. But the most important thing for me was starting with the end in mind. Think about what it is you want to achieve. It goes back to your strategy. Think about what it is that you're trying to achieve. There is a temptation quite often, especially if you're running innovation labs, maybe to try stuff because you can, but I'm sure this doesn't happen, is always think about what's the outcome that I'm looking for. So just because it's new, just because it's exciting, doesn't excuse you from having a goal in mind. It also helps you prevent scope creep. Yeah? So you get into a project and you think, ooh, this is exciting, we could do this. We could also do that. We could try something else over here. Start with a focus in mind. The second thing that we found very helpful is not trying to boil the ocean. So again, in the context of a chatbot, we could say, we're going to have a little chatbot and it can answer any question that you have to do with Lidl. Unbelievably difficult. If you open up the domain of knowledge that a bot has to know in order to be able to answer anything around a topic as broad as that, you are going to find that unbelievably hard. So we started with a very specific knowledge domain in mind, wine. The bot is not going to help you understand groceries. It's not going to answer your customer service questions. You can talk to it about wine. That's it. Yeah, so it's setting out the parameters really nice and neatly. That made the project a lot easier. And then the other thing, just the final thing really, about cost-effective way is I would encourage you not to build everything up front. This was a massive temptation for us. So we sat down and we were like, right, what are the questions that people could ask about wine? Well, and we came up with a spreadsheet of like 200. And we were like, yeah, but we don't actually know that those are the questions that people are going to ask. Okay, let's see if we can narrow that down to 20. And then when we're up and running, we'll see what people ask. And when we work out what those questions are, then we'll go back round and we'll build another loop. So just not doing too much at the front will help keep your costs down, and it will allow you to get a little bit of insight and go, okay, what's the next way forward? Where do we build from here? So learn as you execute. Right, let me tell you a bit about the chatbot. How are we doing for time? Just about all right. So we started with a very, very specific goal in mind. We said start with the end in mind. We have a great range of wines in Lidl. Again, it's a relatively small range, but it's big enough that customers will come in, like you all do, like I do. Go to the supermarket and you're like, that's a lot of wines. How the hell do I choose a wine here? I have no idea. And what do we all use as our proxy for choice? Any ideas? Price, offer. We all do it, don't we? I do it as well. So we go, oh, that one's on offer. Thank you. That helps me narrow my choice down very much. Trouble with that is you just end up selling the same old wines, and all the great stuff that you get in that customers would really like, they don't look at because they just go, ooh, price. Thanks very much. So our goals, if you like, were to kind of help customers explore, choose, ask questions about the wines that we've got in our stores. But we've got a problem. We don't have people on hand just hanging around waiting to ask them. The Lidl stores are run as a very lean business. That's why we keep our costs down. That's why our prices are so keen. So we needed to find a way to help customers without creating extra workload on the guys in store or even on the end of a phone. So providing wine expertise was a key thing. So the wine category is quite complex. It's quite intimidating for some people, so we wanted to help with that. We wanted to encourage customers to try new wines. Sometimes you're like, well, I know this one. I've had this one before. I could try that one, but, it's a risk. What if I don't like it? It's like might be £5, £6, £7. So how do we provide a bit of reassurance in that space in a way that people feel comfortable and happy receiving? We also had end in mind, how do we help our employees and our customer service teams? They don't know anything about wine. Well, how can we help them? What if they've got somebody on the phone or somebody does come up to them in store? How can we equip them? And the other thing, really, which I'll be honest with you, we do want to try, is we say, is this type of technology actually a goer right now? And I said to all of my team at the beginning of the project, it's okay if at the end of this project we go, you know what? Kill it. Customer's not interested, not going to do it. That's okay. Then we've learned something. Maybe it's not the right time, maybe it's not the right mechanic, but at least we can find out if we actually do it. So we have absolutely zero expertise in building chatbots, so we work with Aspect, whose background is very much in a kind of call center background. So they've got sort of 15, 20 years worth of experience of kind of how voice is used within kind of call centers, within IVR systems. So understanding what words mean in context. And one of the things that really impressed us about them was that the work that they'd done around natural language understanding in particular. So I was really keen that we didn't produce a bot that was one of these scripted ones. You know, you've seen the scripted bots where you kind of go, hello, please choose a button underneath. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll have white wine. Oh, thank you for choosing white wine. Oh, aren't white wines brilliant? Now, choose a country. Okay, France. Yeah. Oh, France is France. Wonderful. Choose a price range. Yeah, okay, choose a price range. Okay, anything else? Yeah, any grape variety? Oh, yeah, Pinot Grigio. Fine. Okay. Oh, here's some wines. Great. But you've had to like tap through. It doesn't feel like a good conversational flow. But the challenge is language is so difficult and it's so complicated. So how are we going to handle that? So working with Aspect, we were tapping into they've got a very deep database of words and their relationships to each other and the context and the domains that they sit in. So, Merlot, what is Merlot? Merlot is a grape variety. Okay, it's a red grape variety. Okay, and so suddenly you've got a bit of context from the underlying language and linguistics that's behind it as well. So we can ask, for example, the bot, what white wines do you have from Italy? Or show me Pinot Grigio for under £5. Just using natural language, not having to go through the whole kind of sort of scripted routine. So I am actually going to make you get out your phones in a minute and have a little play. How many people got Facebook Messenger on their phone? Let me show hands. Yeah, Facebook Messenger. Are you mostly in the app, or do you access it via, mostly app, yeah? All right, well, those of you who've got the app, we'll have a little play in a minute. For those of you that don't, I've got some thrilling screenshots for you. So the way this works, you go onto the Lidl Facebook page, you tap send a message, and you get this option here. Hello, you want to chat to a human in customer services, or do you want to get wine advice from the wine bot? So you've got either or. If you choose customer services, you actually just go through to a human. When's the store in Brighton open? Oh, the opening hours or whatever. You got a human on the other end. But if you tap into the wine bot, you then get to meet Margot. And she tells you very clearly up front, this is what I do. So it comes back to this domain knowledge again. This is what I do. Yeah. These are the parameters of our relationship. So I can help you pair wines with food. I can help you find a wine from the little range. Or we can play a quiz. So we want to put a little fun quiz. So just a brief description for you. And again, you can have a play, but just a brief description of what she can do. So she can provide food pairings. So there are like 220 odd food and wine recommendations. There's over 1,700 foods in the kind of database that the natural language engine can understand. You can type in emojis. You want to type in a pizza emoji, you'll get a pizza and wine recommendation. You can ask questions about wine regions. Tell me about Burgundy. Oh, well, Burgundy is a great wine. You get information on wine regions. You can do the same about over 640 different grape varieties if you're so inclined. You can also ask questions as well. So you've got your find a wine. So you could say here, show me Italian wines, or even wines from Tuscany, from Nebbiolo grape. For about £10, under £10, over £10, no more than £10. So we have not had to code each individual phrase. The natural language engine understands. Yeah, about means roughly, means nearly, roundabout. So she can also transfer people to the store finder page. If people say, where's my nearest store? You can ask her jokes. So you can say, tell me a joke. We got that kind of fun stuff. Who made you? Tell me about yourself. What's the weather like? Tell me a joke. Whatever. So kind of a few fun things in there. And then we spent a bit of time, because we're good, responsible retailers, helping Margot to deal with the people who swear at her, because that's generally what people do at Chatbots, is just abuse them. So she's got to learn to be polite with that as well. And then, again, you can also ask these general wine questions. What does New World wine mean? What makes a wine organic? How do I get red wine out of my trousers? Or whatever it is. And then there's this quiz as well. So you can have a play in a minute. But just kind of fun quiz questions in case you're waiting for the bus. So I think the main thing, really, that I wanted to say about building that is that we had to put so much work in the back end in terms of creating the content. It took we think it was probably about 20 full working days of content production in order to provide the data that feeds the bot. And there's a little bit of natural language understanding in there, for sure, and I think that's what makes it interesting and kind of usable. But actually, if you ask me, do I think it's artificially intelligent? My answer would be no, it's thick. It needs a lot of hand-holding. So, like I said, the natural language stuff is quite cool, it's interesting, it's helpful, I think it fits in well. But the amount of heavy lifting, realistically, that we had to do to get this up off the ground, was not insignificant. Right, I've just got a few minutes. I have no idea, really, where future AI is headed, but I'm going to tell you just a few things where I suspect it might. I've got a really kind of old car that doesn't do anything very interesting, but I went to Germany last week to visit the mothership, and I got a lovely new BMW 5 Series car, and it's like, ooh, it's got lots of things. It does lots of things that I don't have in my car. So I pressed all the buttons. Say, yes, activate all cool driver AI devices. Let's see what it does. And it keeps you in lane, it buzzes you if you move out, it kind of auto accelerates and brakes with the car in front, it beeps if you're moving out of your lane and you haven't indicated. It was like, oh wow, I feel so safe. I feel I'm going quite slowly, but I feel safe. And I just wonder whether with a lot of AI, this is kind of how we're going to make the transition. So rather than going from nothing to driverless cars, actually what happens is we find that if we do it well and we do it right, we drip feed good AI experiences into the consumer space, where people can kind of go, okay, yeah, no, that's all right. I get that. That's acceptable. I like that. I don't feel weirded out. I don't feel creeped out by that. So thinking about, particularly marketing, you think about what's happened with Cambridge Analytica this week, people are outraged because they feel manipulated. They don't like it. They feel like they've been dropped in at the deep end. How can anyone not know what cookies are for, and how horrible our lives would be if we weren't being tracked on the internet? But if we don't do that in a way that's sensitive, if we don't, give people enough transparency and clarity around what we're doing, they will be freaked out. So I think as retailers, responsible retailers will drip feed good experiences out there. Yeah, mentioned privacy, security, and transparency. I think it'll be absolutely key, and I don't think those issues are going to go away. And GDPR, hopefully, will make us all sit up and pay a bit more attention than we have in the past. My final point, and we're literally going to leave a couple of moments for questions, just is really that I think we are unlikely in the next at least 2 years, maybe 3 years, to see some genuine kind of AI bot human interactions that would go anywhere near passing, the Turing test of, oh, I'm not sure, am I talking to a bot or I'm talking to a human? I don't know about you, but I've not come across really any of those. Right, I'm going to stop there. If you've got Facebook Messenger, please could you open it for me? Open your app. And at the top, could you search for Lidl UK in your search bar? Hopefully you'll get the Lidl logo. We'll leap up to the top. Yes? You're getting the little strip at the top saying Lidl UK. Tap on that for me. Are you getting the intro message? No? Yes? Yes? Little intro message saying you can speak to a human or customer service. If you're not, say hi. Should work. Is working? Yeah, you got it? So you should have the option. You can chat to customer services. Don't talk to them. They're boring. They don't know anything about wine. Talk to Margot. So if you start the wine bot, off you go, have a play. You will very quickly find she says, sorry, I can't quite understand what you're saying. Yeah? But, have a play, see what you can say, see what you can't say, get a feel for kind of what language, you can use. So you can say things like, I'm thinking about having a red wine with steak tonight. Yeah? And she'll kind of give you a match for steak. So, but, I'll tell you a quickly funny thing in the last 10 seconds. When we launched the bot, and we were thinking, like, right here, people are going to start to say, show me red wines. You know what? Almost the first conversation that we saw open like this. Hello. My parents are coming for dinner on Saturday night, and they like red wines, but me and my husband, we only like white wine. So we wondered whether if we're having something like salmon or maybe cod, would a rosé be best? And Margot went, understandably. So, it's early days. Some links there, just if you're bored on the way home on the train, have a little look. I don't really have time for questions, but I am around just briefly if you want to talk to me. Thank you very much.